Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
It's a space probe, which makes it now cool instead of dirty.
And Brandan Schultz.
Nick Foles, living with the ghost of Eli Manning inside of his body.
Go Hawks!
Welcome to a Blue Friday playoff edition of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandan Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy, he's back, Adam Emmert.
I'm back and apparently confused because I thought today was Thursday. Then I realized, oh, you mean you're going to put this out on Friday, so I should just play along. But then I screwed the whole thing up.
You screwed it up.
It's good to be back to screw up the podcast. Thanks for keeping things afloat until I could come back and just, ruin the whole thing.
Yeah, big thanks to Ross and Rob and Clinton and Anthony, all those guys for filling in behind you over these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, man, it was a team effort by yourself and some of the more prestigious members of the flock. And I'm appreciative, man, because it's been a crazy couple of weeks. And I'm glad it's over.
Got Santa squared away.
That debacle's done. Yeah. I made a whopping $500 off of a month's worth of work. It was awesome. Yeah, it was awesome.
Well, we can get into that some more a little bit later in the show. But before we get there, let's look ahead to the Dallas game. Adam, we have a Prisco's world to get to. It's been a while, but it's time to take a trip.
Okay. I think I know what this is pertaining to, and mind blown.
And I want to talk a little bit about the reason for the Seahawks playoff season. And Adam, I need to tell you why Patrick Mahomes needs to do better. And I'm not sure why this hasn't created more of a controversy around the NFL.
Are we going to talk about the Cardinals game at all?
Should we?
Well, I don't know.
Well, we can get into a little bit of the Arizona game. Let's start off with some news. Congrats to our running back, Chris Carson, NFC Offensive Player of the Month for the month of December.
Yeah, broke the 1,000-yard mark for the season. First back to do that since Marshawn.
Half of that came in the month of December. 516 yards and 5 touchdowns just in the month of December.
Wow. He really did turn it on towards the end. I didn't realize it was that prolific towards the end. I think they started giving him the ball more, to be honest. I think they started to trust him and his body. And maybe they were saving him a little bit early in the season so that they could use him more heavily towards the second half of the season and now going into the postseason.
Well, if you think about it, too, they had 5 games just in the month of December alone. So that averages out to 100 yards and a touchdown a game.
There you go.
Other big news, Coach Carroll signed through the year 2021.
Yeah, that's exciting, right? A little more Pete for a couple years. I know a lot of people this offseason were saying that, either we're calling for his head or we're saying that it was about over.
Sure.
I mean, I remember Hawk Blogger having a whole long article about such crazy things.
Oh, especially after the Chicago game. After 2 weeks into the NFL season, Seattle's 0-2. And, we both got on Pete a little bit for not sticking to the philosophy that he talked about the entire offseason.
Right.
And then they didn't, had they just done that the first 2 weeks of the year, this team might be 12-4 rather than 10-6.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then our predictions would have been wrong.
That's true. Now, we did get on his case a little bit, but neither of us were calling for him to be fired.
Oh, no.
And now at the end of the season, people are saying this is possibly Pete Carroll's best coaching job ever.
Right.
It's like, well, no, this is pretty much what I expected out of Pete. And this is pretty much what I expected out of this team, or we expected, to be fair. And I've seen so many people post things like, who would have thunk the Seahawks are 10-6? These guys, we thought that. Yeah, that number exactly, by the way.
Michael Sean Dugar, I think, also had 10-6 down in his predictions. So, it's not like we're just homing it up over here. I mean, we had a quarterback that could win. We had a coach with a history of winning. 10-6 didn't seem so crazy. And I do want to let you know that my prediction was more right than yours.
There's no more righter or less righter.
You predicted the Seahawks to win the division. I predicted them to finish second.
It's not my fault that the Rams unraveling came later in the season than I would have thought.
Okay.
I mean, but it's happening.
It's kind of your fault for not knowing.
I'm more righter. I just wanted to make sure we knew that.
Now we know.
Yeah.
Well, the Seahawks get the win 27-24 over the Arizona Cardinals. It wasn't pretty trying to take down a historically bad offense of the Arizona Cardinals. Josh Rosen, I was looking at his stats, worse in terms of quarterback performance than Kelly Stauffer for the Seahawks in 1992, the worst Seahawks season ever.
Wow, that's the Wayback Machine right there. I hadn't thought about Kelly Stauffer for a minute. That's funny.
He was, and he was drafted by the Cardinals originally. Strangely enough,
true fact.
Yeah. They traded. Remember, it was originally they were trading Kenny Easley to get Stauffer to the Seahawks, and then when he failed his physical, they ended up having to trade picks.
Oh, well, that worked out because we didn't have to lose Kenny Easley.
Well, he ended up having to retire.
Well, I know, but just the idea that he would have been a Cardinal at all.
Right.
Yeah.
He was a lifetime member of the Seahawks then.
Exactly, and that feels better. That's what I'm saying. It worked out.
It did work out.
But yeah, it's an interesting game. I've heard a lot of people call it ugly or alarming. A lot of other words of that nature.
Ugly. I think ugly is a good descriptor. It wasn't pretty.
I'd call it annoying.
Uh-huh.
Because when I went back and watched this game, I didn't get to watch it live, but I had heard, I'd seen the score. I'd heard everybody's, moaning and groaning about the game. And I went back and I watched it. And honestly, it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. Basically, this game came down to the only reason it was close was 2 block punts. Otherwise, the Seahawks played their game through and through.
And field position. I mean, the special teams
that's because of the field position. That's what I'm saying.
So it wasn't just the block punts, but they had a return punt, and the Cardinals, they were going 3 and out on their side of the field inside the 20. Tyler Lockett would run it out, would get to the 15 or 20, then they'd go 3 and out and have to kick it back to the Cardinals, and the Cardinals scored on their short fields.
Right. And look, Pharaoh Cooper, I've seen enough of him as a returner to last me 17 lifetimes. Between his stint with the Rams and now here with the Cards.
When did he go from the Rams to the Cardinals anyway?
I didn't know. When he first returned, he returned the one, right? Uh-huh. The big return. I was like, when the hell did he show up on the Cardinals? I didn't know.
I didn't know either. I thought he was hurt. I thought he was injured for the Rams, and that's why he wasn't playing for the Rams this year.
I had no idea. But no, he's a hell of a return guy.
Yeah.
Special teams was not stellar. And that's basically it. The only other thing that I saw that really was difficult to watch was just the performance of the offensive line and pass protection.
Yeah.
But that's not indicative of how this line has performed all year. And so I look at that as more of an anomaly than the norm. And with Fluker coming back, it sounds like for sure he's back, right?
Right.
And then
he could have gone in this last game, but they chose to sit him out. He was supposed to sit out the Kansas City game, but because of all the injuries, they ended up bringing him in there when Sweezy went down.
So, yeah, having Fluker back, I think, makes a gigantic difference. And fingers crossed that Sweezy's back, because Posick is a disaster right now.
He's having a rough go of it. I think they can deal with it, though, if Sweezy's the only guy.
Yeah, we just can't have 2 holes in the offensive line. One we can deal with.
Right.
The last thing that really stood out to me was Russell Wilson's interception. That came on the play that shall not be talked about. I don't know why that was ran again. I don't know how that's still in the playbook. I want there to be a ceremony in the middle of CenturyLink Field where we rip that page out of the playbook, set it on fire, and then bury it and never, ever see it again. We can all agree that's a bad play for this team. It's a bad play.
It's funny that stood out to you. It was a discussion point for Ross and I after the game at how eerily similar. Because not only was it that play, but it was number 83 going to the ground on the interception.
I didn't even think about that either.
Yeah.
But it looked identical, right?
Right.
Every part of it.
Every Seahawks fan had a flashback at that moment to the...
Oh, my God. Yeah. I felt like I was some Vietnam vet that heard a chopper come overhead and dove in a bush. Uh-huh. That's how I was feeling when I saw that play. I was like, I had PTSD.
We all have PTSD from that play now.
Yeah.
I know, it sucks.
It's I didn't need to see that. I'm glad they got it out of their system in that game, though.
I mean, it's not the same level of, actual PTSD, but... No,
it's an analogy.
Right.
Not comparing my Seahawks fandom to time it's spent in war, okay? I'm not saying those are equivalent.
They aren't. It's true. They aren't equivalent. Just so we're clear.
I'm aware.
Because some people will make that. They'll go, oh, my gosh. See, the outraged people, they were going to their keyboard and we stopped them mid keyboard rant.
Probably not.
You think it's still coming? Okay.
I think it's still coming. But then again, take a joke.
Well, the good takeaway for me was that Seabass came through at the end, kicked the field goal. See, we don't need to have the PTSD flashbacks of Blair Walsh in late moments in the games, because it was last year against the Cardinals. The Seahawks had a chance to get that win. I can still see Pete Carroll mouthing the word unbelievable as Blair Walsh missed his final kick of the 2017 regular season, but not Sebastian Janikowski. He kicks it through and we get the win.
Let us not forget the season before that when Hausch Money got the shanks against the Cardinals.
Sure.
And we lost that game.
Although Seabass did have a shank against the Cardinals in Arizona earlier this season, but he did have the game winner. So when it comes to game winners, Seabass has been money.
He has. I guess every time he goes out there and kicks, like, I feel like he's trying so hard to guide the football through the uprights. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel free and easy. Like, it just, when you've played a lot of golf and like there's days that you really are just trying to guide the ball down the fairway instead of just letting it rip. Mm-hmm. And it makes it an adventure at the end of the day. It makes it difficult. That's how I feel with Seabass right now. My confidence level with Seabass right now is maybe like at a 69.5%.
Okay. Well, you've narrowed it down in terms of the percentage.
Yeah. I mean, there's room for improvement. Let's put it that way.
Well, Gronk would appreciate that number.
Gronk's a good time, man. You can't even be mad.
Well, Adam, the regular season is over. The Seahawks score 428 points, the most ever by a Seahawks team since the 2005 Mike Holmgren team that went to the Super Bowl, 452 points.
Wow, I didn't realize they were in that discussion with those the Hasselback teams. I mean, because those were some high-flying offenses, man.
Well, it even beat some of those. It's second most only to that 2005 season where they put up so many points.
That's unbelievable. I mean, especially for a team that everybody seems to look at as the ground and pound team and, playing 1983 football. But yet somehow they're scoring a lot of points and being explosive.
That's weird.
I love the idea that nobody catches on to that.
Well, the one downside, though, 347 points allowed, which is the most of any Seahawks team that's won 10 or more games. The 2003 Seahawks won 10 games and allowed 20 fewer points.
It's kind of like in baseball, there was like kind of that home run era where everybody was juicing, right? And the numbers were just inflated. I kind of feel like that's where we are in the NFL right now with just the scoring overall with offenses. I mean, just with all the rules and the way the game is played now, a good defense, if you're holding people under 25, 30 points a game, like, you're dominant defense. And I guess maybe that translates to the Seahawks scoring the second most points in team history, like in this inflated era,
You need to adjust for the era.
Yeah, this is the start of a new era.
Even in 2005, it was different.
It's drastically different than it is today.
Well,
I mean, just think about all the people talking about Gruden and the way that he's coaching like it's 2003, 2005, right? And complaining about that.
One thing I'm not complaining about, Chris Carson, 1,151 yards. We mentioned him at the top of the show. Mm-hmm. 17th best season by a running back, but the only other guys to break 1,000 yards in Seahawks history, Sean Alexander, Marshawn Lynch, Chris Warren, Kurt Warner, Ricky Waters, and now Chris Carson.
Yeah, and to be honest, I feel like he belongs.
Let's see how many more years he can do it.
Yeah, that'll be the key, right?
Because all those other guys did it for at least 3 years.
Yeah, I think he's got it in him. He's a young guy. I love his style, man.
It's a cool style. You hear Pete Carroll, every time he goes to talk about Chris Carson, he talks about how he has a style with the way he runs, but then he never mentions the guy that he reminds him of. It's got to be somebody good, like Jim Brown or Gale Sayers or somebody like legendary that he just it reminds him of him, but he doesn't want to say it.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide who he does remind me of. I'll have to think on that. That's it, because that's a tough one. I don't know.
I hear a lot of people reference Chris Warren when thinking of other Seahawks running backs that he kind of reminds you of.
I can see that. They're kind of similar stature. Mm-hmm. I get that.
Chris Carson, an excellent season. Russell Wilson, an outstanding season. Now the first quarterback in NFL history with a winning record in each of his first 7 seasons. And he got that with the win over Kansas City.
Well, there you go. That actually could tie into a do better candidate that I have for this week.
Oh, interesting.
There was a headline that said something along the lines of how Pete Carroll turned around a losing situation or something like that. And it's like, wait a second. I mean, you realize
he didn't actually lose.
Yeah. Ever since Russell Wilson's been the quarterback, he's had a winning record.
Yeah.
Even last year. Remember the year that everybody said that we sucked and we went 9-7?
No, that was a losing season. Don't you remember?
Right. That was kind of my point with that. It's like, you got to be joking.
Redefining losing seasons. And then another record setter, Michael Dixon. Franchise records for punt average, 48.2, and net average, 42.5.
Well, that took a ding last week.
Yeah, a little bit. But he still got the record.
Yeah, he still got the record.
Yeah, that was probably the worst game in terms of punting. Well, and that wasn't really any fault of his, but...
Yeah, you could see him really rushing the punts after that first block.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it affected him.
I didn't realize how small the guys are on the offensive line for punt blocking.
Well, yeah, because they got to run downfield and cover.
But they have some big dudes that they have to go against to block.
Right.
It's like
special teams is hard.
Yeah. It's like Delano Hill is like in the guard position.
Yeah, exactly.
That was surprising to me. I don't know why. I've never really looked at it.
Really? Yes. But being a special teamer there's a lot to it. And totally underappreciated. A third of the game. And you saw it affect this last game.
Well, now we have a playoff game to look forward to, Adam.
This is exciting. I am super fired up for this game.
Seahawks have an all-time record in the playoffs, 16-15 in the franchise, 12-2 at home, 3-11 on the road, 1-2 in the Super Bowl. But the Seahawks have not lost in the wild card round under Coach Carroll. 2 wins at home, 2 wins on the road. And as we go into the playoffs, I got a little trivia question for you, Adam.
Shoot.
Name the Seahawks player who has played in the most playoff games in his career.
Oh, Jerry Rice.
No. On the team right now.
Oh, right now.
Yeah. Of all the Seahawks players on the team right now, and it doesn't have to be entirely with Seattle.
That's a tough one. Seabass. No, not Seabass. He didn't play.
He's got 8, I think.
Yeah.
Baldwin, Wilson, and Wagner all have 12, and there's one person that has more.
Oh, okay. So it's not because the only reason I didn't go with those guys is I was like, well, they've been here the whole time, and it must be some dude that it's been around a little bit. Yeah, I have no clue, dude.
Ed Dixon, 14 games.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. He's played a lot for the Panthers
and Ravens.
Oh, yeah. I forget about his Ravens time.
Well, if the Seahawks are going to win this week against the Dallas Cowboys, it's going to be with the formula they've used over the last 6 weeks. You mentioned explosive plays earlier for Seattle, and really that's been the formula for them. Just since week 10, they've had 73 explosive plays, 34 explosive runs, that's 12 yards or more, 39 explosive passes, that's 16 yards or more, tied with Kansas City Chiefs at 73 since week 10.
You know, I've often wondered how they landed on that mark for explosive rushing plays of 12 yards or more.
Yeah.
Like, I get the 16 yards or more because basically anything over 15 yards is what they're saying in the pass game. But anything over 11 yards for a run? Like, why that, not 10?
10 seems logical to me because it's a first down.
Exactly. So to me, it'd be any run that's 11 or more. But for whatever reason, it's 12 or more.
Just go with it. It's 12 or more.
Just saying, I wonder why.
That's a good question. Throw it out
Not
there.
that I'm complaining about the number 12. I like the number 12. I have an affinity for it. But no, they have been a very explosive offense, and it's something that the national media has completely overlooked. I've been eating up the coverage and just from most of the pundits nationwide about this game. It's hilarious to listen to because you said if the Seahawks are going to win this game, they have to stick to the formula. There is no if about this. We are winning this game.
Yeah.
My confidence level couldn't be higher going into this game as far as playoff goes.
Yeah, we talked to Brian McLaughlin of the Common Ground Football Podcast yesterday going into this game, and you sounded pretty confident.
Yeah.
And you have reason to be. Again, explosive plays. The Seahawks also the third highest scoring offense since week 10 behind KC and the Rams. Seahawks have won 6 out of their last 7, but everybody talks about the Cowboys winning 7 of their last 8. And they've done it against a team like the New Orleans Saints. They're carrying all that momentum at them into the playoffs, especially that 36-35 win over the Giants.
Exactly, right? No, I went back and I looked at the Cowboys schedule and just exactly who they've beaten. They've played 7 teams with I estimated to be a winning record. I didn't go back and check. I was just like, yeah, I'm pretty sure they have a winning record. The teams that ended up being good
right
at the end of the day, right? And they were 3-4 against the quote unquote good teams. They caught the Saints napping. And I don't see this dominant Cowboys team that everybody seems to think that they are. Like, I hear everybody in the big press talking about how much more talented the Dallas Cowboys roster is than the Seahawks roster. Are they?
Are they?
Let's go through this real quick. Like, let's start on offense. Let's start on the perimeter. Let's look at their receivers. I'd say Amari Cooper, Doug Baldwin. That's about a wash.
Right. More depth for Seattle.
Tyler Lockett versus Cole Beasley. I'm definitely taking Tyler Lockett.
Definitely.
And then Gallup versus David Moore. A wash.
Sure.
You know, I mean, so, like, if anything, the Seahawks have a more talented receiving core.
Yeah.
I mean, Dallas has that Jarwin kid that had that one big game. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, one big game, but
end.
stone hands, like, for the rest of the season.
Right. Yeah. So tight end position doesn't scare me. So let's look at the running backs. This is where everybody seems to give the Cowboys this enormous advantage. I mean, Zeke Elliott, first-round pick out of Ohio State, lights this league on fire. He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's so much better than anything the Seahawks have. Dirty little secret, he's not.
Zeke out of the backfield, I'd give a slight edge to him.
As far as catching the ball?
Yeah. His average yards after the catch is pretty solid. I think he's got like 8 yards after the catch.
In the passing game?
On average, yeah.
Sure. Yeah,
Pretty
I mean,
solid.
he might be just slightly better, right? 4.7. They both average, Chris Carson and Ezekiel Elliott, both average 4.7 yards per attempt. Like,
Yeah.
they're basically the same guy.
Okay.
So let's look at quarterback, right?
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think are we even looking at quarterback?
Exactly.
Although one thing I will say about Dak is that he has been clutch. He's been more clutch this year. When it comes down to these one-possession games at the end of the game, he's been able to, in the similar way of Russell Wilson, be able to get his team a win in a close game. And that's been part of the formula of the Cowboys' success over the last 8 games, is that he's been able to, on these one-score games, drive the Cowboys late down the field and get the win.
Sure, in the regular season.
Yeah.
But we're talking about a Cowboys quarterback going into the playoffs and clutchiness.
Sure.
So that
hasn't worked out very well for him.
No.
No.
And then you look at offensive lines. I mean, I know the Seahawks aren't graded well via Pro Football Focus, but the play of the Seahawks offensive line and the Cowboys line this season has been very similar. That's not the same vaunted Cowboys offensive line that we've heard about over the years. They're all their starters are going to play, but they are banged up or playing to a lesser level.
One thing that was interesting to me, Russell Wilson sacked the most times of his career this year.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott sacked 56 times this year, number 2 in the league. And that 56 times, it's almost 10% of his pass attempts.
Wow.
So
yeah, with the pass rush looking like it did against the Cardinals, I mean, look out, Dak.
Yeah, if they can keep that up.
Well, they definitely can. I mean, let's look at the defensive side of the ball and talk about that defensive line a little bit. Like, I don't think that Frank Clark, Jacob Martin, Jaron Reed and company are any lesser than DeMarcus Lawrence and company.
No, I'd say that's pretty even.
Yeah, that's a wash.
How about Jaron Reed this year getting 10.5 sacks? The first guy since John Randall to get 10 sacks from the defensive tackle spot. The only other guy besides John Randall and Cortez Kennedy.
That's amazing.
Isn't it?
That's amazing.
14 sacks for Frank Clark this year.
Yeah. To listen to Kenny Norton talk about the work that Jaron Reed put in during this offseason to increase his efficiency as a pass rusher and how he wanted to become a more well-rounded player, you can see that it paid off for him. And it's pretty cool. So, yeah, I look at the defensive lines, probably a wash. And you look at linebackers, don't get me wrong, Van Der Esch is a heck of a player. Is Lee even back again? Like, he's in and out so much, I'd never know.
Well, he's kind of just
like situational player now?
Situational now because of Van Der Esch is having so much success.
Right. But if you're going to
have another good linebacker that's good, though, too, isn't it? Smith?
He's a decent linebacker, but is he better than KJ Wright?
He's up there. He's pretty good.
Sure, but is he better than KJ Wright? Doubt it.
No. The tandem of Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright is better than the tandem of Van Der Esch and Smith.
Yeah, if there's a draft for middle linebackers, you're taking Bobby Wagner before you take Van Der Esch. You just are. He's a better player.
Right.
So, like, to me, that's advantage Seattle in the linebackers. And then you look at the secondary. I think the safety play is advantage Seahawks. And the corner play, I'd probably give advantage Cowboys.
Okay.
And like with all that said, this is the team that has the vastly superior roster that I've been hearing about.
So much
all
more
week.
talent than Seattle. Yeah.
So much more talent. I don't see it. Like if I look at it objectively.
Well, I think there's a little bit of Cowboys homerism going on in there. There's a lot of Cowboys fans in the media.
It's been amazing to see how many people write off the Seahawks for this game. And it's kind of the same people that wrote them off at the beginning of the year, then ate crow towards the end of the year here. And then now we're like, well, yeah, but they overachieved.
To be fair, though, I think there's a lot of other people in the media that were picking Seattle to win this game even before the Cardinals game was over.
Yeah, I've seen a few.
You know, people saying that among the teams going into the playoffs, that the Seahawks team is one of the ones you don't want to play.
Yeah, and I mean, geez, and if I'm a Cowboys fan, this is exactly the team I don't want to face. They're basically mirror images of one another, yet one has an actual experience advantage when it comes to the playoffs and knows what it takes to win.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like Dallas and Jerry World is a tremendous home field advantage. Never has been.
In fact, Dak Prescott was remembering back to the last time that they were in a big playoff game against the Packers, and he was quoted saying, "I just hope when I signal for everyone to be quiet, that they be quiet this game, knowing how important it is for us to communicate. Hopefully the fans are working well with us. But then when we're on defense, showing how loud they can be." You know, remembering back to the game against the Packers and the crowd apparently not knowing, or there were just so many Packers fans there that it was too noisy for the Cowboys to communicate.
Right. But they're Cowboys fans. So, I mean, the football IQ is not going to be exactly high. So, I mean, good luck, Dak, with that. It's hilarious. It's almost like he's having to go and instate the Rams rules for his fans.
Yeah. When we're on offense, guys, we want you to be quiet.
Shh.
Is he also telling the crowd to yell sack when the defense gets a sack?
Oh my gosh, those need to come back. We need the Rams rules back.
Well, hopefully we're playing the Rams, and then we can play the Rams rules after going into the game next week.
That would be awesome. I'm rooting so hard for the Eagles.
That's true.
I'm rooting so hard for the Eagles because I feel really good about the Seahawks team going into this game. I mean, the name of the game is points at the end of the day. I mean, when you look at the offenses, we average more points than they do. We've got 26 point some, and they're around 21 points a game.
Yeah.
Like there, you look at defensively and points allowed. They allow 1.5 points less. Like, so defenses are really close. This vaunted Dallas defense that gets after everybody.
Yeah, I look at that New Orleans game, and I see a team that, I mean, road teams just historically on Thursday Night Football have not done well when they go into another team's house.
Right.
And I mean, really, since then, New Orleans offense hasn't been playing quite the same as it was early on in the season. But
I don't know. They're still putting up the points that they need. They played a talented Steelers team that came to play and put them down towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
You know, people are poo-pooing their finish of the season. Yeah, and I mean, if you're a Cowboys fan, you can't feel good about the way that it went down against the Giants. Like, I'd feel worse about that game. Everybody talks about Seattle's egg that they laid against Arizona, but nobody's talking about the egg that Dallas laid against the Giants.
They got shut out by the Colts.
Well, there's that too. But that game against the Giants, their last game of the year, was not impressive.
Oh, sure. Well, they put up 36 points, but they gave up 35 points to the Giants.
To Eli freaking Manning. I mean, the corpse of Eli freaking Manning.
Yeah. And that Dallas defense is supposed to be so great. Gave up 35 points. And the reason why he scored 36 points is because the Giants' safeties were, they had like their backup safeties.
Yeah.
But in terms of points per game, Seahawks are 6th in the NFL, only behind KC, Rams, New Orleans, New England, and Indy. Dallas isn't even on this list.
But wait, the Seahawks are a backward team that can't score.
No, they're doing just fine at scoring.
Oh, that's weird.
Hey, you know what else they're good at doing?
Turnovers.
Yeah, number 1 in the league.
Don't you just feel like kind of the way it unfolded the first time he played these guys? I mean, Dak throws 2 picks. It just feels like that's coming.
It does.
Jason Garrett makes some stupid decision somewhere down the stretch.
Uh-huh.
And has that Jason Garrett face thing going on. That just kind of blank stare.
Cowboys fans know what you're talking about.
Yes, they do. They see it all the time. They're going to see it for another 10 years.
You think so?
Jerry Jones loves his puppet coach.
You think if they're one and done in the playoffs again,
For sure he's back.
Okay.
For sure.
I don't know.
Do you think the Chris Richard element plays a factor here at all?
He's getting a lot of interest as a coaching candidate.
I get it.
Yeah, I would too. I'd be interested.
Yeah.
If I were another team like the Browns or the Bucks.
Well, what do you think is more beneficial? The fact that Chris Richard knows the Seahawks, right? Inside and out, knows Russell Wilson and company. Or is it more beneficial that the Seahawks know Chris Richard and the type of defense he likes to run?
I think it's more beneficial for Seattle.
I do too, only because the offense that Chris Richard was seeing every day in practice was Darrell Bevell's offense.
Well, there's that.
And not Shoddy's. It's just different.
Yeah.
So there has been changes and wrinkles.
Well, I was just thinking in terms of talent level. I mean, Russell Wilson goes up against we just talked about it. It's a more talented defense.
Right.
So if you're going up against a more talented defense day in and day out, if it's the similar defense, it's obvious.
Well, and the thing to me, when you look at the defenses and compare them and contrast them, it's really difficult. The Dallas defense ranks higher in yards. No doubt they do. They rank just a slightly better in points per game, which that matters. But in today's NFL, the way that you play defense, it's you let them run all up and down the field. There's no stopping people anymore. Like, that's just how it is. So you got to let go of that. And the only thing that you can do is create turnovers and be good in big time situations like third down. And these are areas that Seattle has a tremendous advantage over the Cowboys. I mean, when you look at third down efficiency allowed, the Seahawks are only allowing third down conversions on 34% of the time. The Cowboys, 42%. Nearly 10% more third downs given up. And that's a huge deal. You keep the chains moving. You keep Russell Wilson on the field. You keep your defense resting. Keep the ball out of Zeke's hand. I think it all just lines up very favorably for Seattle this game. I don't think they're going to blow them out. I think it's going to be close.
That's the one thing. These two teams are really good at playing one another close. And that's why I think it comes down, who has the ball last and who can you count on in those final moments the most. And I brought it up earlier. I mean, Dak Prescott, he does have one more game this season, had one more game-winning drive than Russell Wilson this year. Drew Brees leads the league in game-winning drives with 7. Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson have 5. And then Russell Wilson's there with 4 wins this season.
I like that you brought up the stat. That's great.
Yeah.
How many stats does he have? 5. Okay. Well, Russ has 4.
Yeah, Russ has 4.
I don't know. I still I look at how many stats these guys have over their careers, and man, Russell Wilson has been unbelievable in the fourth quarter of games, and especially big games. You don't care. He's chucking it up in big situations.
Oh, that was the best part of watching the Chiefs game, was watching coming down the stretch to take the lead, put them up by 10 points in that game to really put it away. And then, against the Cardinals, too, he has that big play down the field to Tyler Lockett.
Against the Panthers. Against the Panthers earlier this year. Like that throw to Tyler Lockett at the end of the game to basically seal it and put Seabass in field goal range. That was a huge throw. I'm trying to remember the other game that Russell Wilson had nerves of steel and he completed it to David Moore down the left sideline. But I remember at the time thinking, man, that takes cojones más grande.
Cojones más grande.
I just love this matchup for Seattle. I'm really looking forward to this game. I'm hoping to get out of the sawmill in time to watch it live. We'll see how it goes, but this is going to be fun. This is my official prediction. We beat Dallas. I do think the Eagles are going to beat the Bears. I really do. And then we get the Rams, and I think we beat the Rams. It's difficult to beat a team 3 times in a season, especially with the Rams on the decline. Then we end up playing the Saints in New Orleans, and we lose that game. We lose in the NFC Championship game.
Tough to see a road to the Super Bowl for Seattle.
There is a possibility that they could get there. I mean, I'm definitely not writing it off.
It's definitely possible. Yeah.
I mean, well, and they have the talent level, too, to possibly get it done. You know what I mean? Like, it's not completely far-fetched that they could make it.
Well, just think about it. Seattle beats the Cowboys. If they go on to beat the Rams, and then you have the Eagles do another magical thing where they, go on the road, back-to-back games, and then end up in the NFC Championship, that game's going to be in Seattle.
Yeah.
I like Seattle's record in championship games at home.
Yeah, no, that'd be pretty sweet.
So
look, and the other thing that I find interesting is everybody talking about how Seattle's not a good road team.
Yeah, what's with that?
How is that a true fact? Like, because it's not.
Aren't they just as good on the road as they are at home?
They've played well on the road this year.
5-3 at home, 5-3 on the road.
That sounds right. I'd have to go back and look.
Or is it 4-4?
I'm just going off they might be 4-4. But also, two of the losses on the road were those first 2 weeks. And it almost feels like there's two seasons that unfolded here for the Seattle Seahawks. And the first part of the season, week 1 and 2, that was the first season. And then we've had the rest of the season where they decided to play good football in the way that we wanted to play. So those two losses, man, like say you beat the Broncos instead of losing to them stupidly. The whole thing. Now you're 11-5, and the whole narrative changes even more.
Yeah, the only two road losses since then was the road loss to the Rams and then to the 49ers. So in division road losses. Right. And other than that,
those 49ers game, they lost to the officials in that game.
Officials, the field conditions, the rain.
Yeah,
and that was
just an anomaly game.
I think so too.
Yeah.
The Seahawks offense inside the red zone, 65%. Dallas Cowboys inside the red zone, 48%.
Wow. I didn't realize there was that big of a difference between these two teams in the red zone. That's huge.
For the offense, yeah. In terms of the defense, red zone scoring percentage, Seahawks have a slight edge, 49% for the defense and 51% for Dallas's defense.
Well, one last thing just to kind of prove the point of these teams are not so far apart talent-wise. Just looking at Pro Football Focus, their overall team grades.
Yeah.
The Seahawks, they have ranked 14th. Where do you think the Dallas Cowboys rank?
I don't know, 20th?
15th.
Right behind it.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting.
But it's the vastly superior team. They have so much more talent.
I was looking at DVOA, and Dallas is way down on the list for Football Outsiders. The Seahawks are at number 12, and Dallas all the way down at 21.
I mean, there's a few things, too, that just seem like they're trends that have been continuing here for the Cowboys. Amari Cooper's play has been on the decline since his debut with the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
That defense has been on the decline since the Saints game.
You do have to worry about Amari Cooper, though. It's not like it was in week 3 when the Seahawks could just blitz Dak Prescott and not have to worry about any of his receivers. Like Amari Cooper's been putting up a good season, and he does lead the Cowboys receivers in drops, but it's not the types of drops that he's had in past seasons. Like he's more at league average this year rather than double the league average.
Right. And I mean, God, going back to that Cardinals game, that's something that stood out was Doug Baldwin with the drops.
Yeah. Killed
one drive. I'm glad he got that out of his system. Nick Vannett with the drop, killed a drive. Like all the plays were there.
Yeah.
For it to be a dominant performance instead of just one where you get the win.
Yeah, getting those catches on third down, when you get into those third and short situations, not coming up with the third down catches, that was drive killers for him.
Man, just licking my chops for this. When I looked at the whole possibilities of seeding and like who we could possibly get, my number one choice was the Dallas Cowboys by far.
I didn't want Chicago.
No, I mean, I don't think Chicago is nearly as good as everybody seems to think they are.
The defense is really good.
Yeah, I know, but their offense is really not good. That's the thing. They're super one-dimensional.
It just always seems to work for them on offense.
Yeah, in the regular season.
Yeah, we'll see when it gets
that quirky gimmicky crap just does not fly in the playoffs.
No,
man.
But with the defense, I think they can get by. Just like with the Ravens. I mean, those two defenses would be the defenses that are the playoff style defenses.
I believe in the Bears defense 40 times more than I do that Ravens defense.
I do too.
Yeah, the AFC is weak sauce overall.
Yeah, I think one defense has the potential to make it all the way, and it's the Bears.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think they can carry Mitch Trubisky.
Huh, interesting.
Like, I mean, I think back to that week 2 matchup. That's a game we should have had.
Oh, yeah.
For you to just give Chris Carson the ball.
Right.
That's all you had to do.
Yeah.
And we win that game. Like, they're highly beatable.
You're going to have the running game, I think, to beat the Bears. And I don't know if the Eagles do.
They do have the defensive front, the Eagles, to make life absolutely miserable for Mitch Trubisky and force him into some errors.
Just depends on how well they're covering Cohen out of the backfield, I think.
Well, that's the one guy, right?
Yeah, you have to worry about him.
And then everybody else is just dudes?
I feel like they have enough. And plus, if their defense puts some points up on the board, that's been one of the keys to their success this year.
So, but the thing that you're overlooking is that once Eli Manning died in a New York Giants uniform, and I think that was last year, like when he officially became a walking zombie corpse, his spirit floated into Nick Foles.
Oh.
Like these improbable playoff runs?
Yeah.
It's because Eli Manning has possessed Nick Foles' body.
Well, it'll be fun to see it then.
Yeah, this is another random Nick Foles year.
I have no belief in Nick Foles to do this in back-to-back seasons.
Dude, I had no belief in him to do it the first time around, and then I've watched him already start to do it this year, and I'm just like, okay, this is just who he is.
It's like those random Joe Flacco years back in the day, huh?
Yeah. You always have that quarterback that shouldn't be that good in clutch moments, but for whatever reason, can put it together for a stretch of like 6-7 games.
Well, I did officially pick against Nick Foles in this first round of the playoffs. So,
I should make my picks.
We'll see who's right.
Yes, I will be officially picking against Mitchell Trubisky.
Well, Adam, we mentioned at the top of the show that we both predicted 10-6 seasons, but I don't think that we expected it to go quite the way it had. And it was certainly, people who were predicting worse records for the Seahawks had no belief that they'd get there. But, when we had the expectation, I think we based it a lot on Russell Wilson continuing to be amazing. He was. We had the expectation that the defense could at least be, league average, despite losing Averill, Bennett, Sherman, Chancellor. But I think there were a couple areas that went kind of beyond my expectations.
Yeah.
And, especially when you consider Earl Thomas being out, KJ Wright, losing him for a majority of the season. But the number one thing for me that really went beyond expectations and was the key to the Seahawks 10-6 season, turnovers. All about the ball, man.
Yeah.
I put that at number one.
The renewed emphasis on turnovers has been a gigantic thing. That was one of the things coming out of the Cardinals game that seemed very apparent, is how aggressively every single player on defense is going after the ball on every single play.
Yeah, and I wonder, is it a renewed emphasis or is it just you have players that have the desire? Did they lose that somehow in the last two seasons? Because you go back to the playoff seasons and the turnovers were there, and a lot of times we talk about fumble luck, but a lot of that too, it seems like, guys, pulling at the football.
So I think the answer to your question is probably yes.
Right.
It's a little bit of the players with added desire, having younger, hungrier players out there, like trying to prove themselves and establish themselves. I think that is part of it. But I also do think, just listening to Pete and Ken talk, how much more emphasis they are putting on it's all.
It's always been like the number one emphasis item. I feel like it can't be that it's just emphasis. There has to be something else.
Like I said, I think it is a combination of those two factors, and I think you hit the nail on the head. My thought coming into this season, in the expectations that I had, probably the thing that exceeded that the most was I was hoping the offensive line would be not complete trash, like just a step up from like total dumpster fire Titanic to like, they're okay. And really just the additions of Sweezy and Fluke and the overall play and the way that they absolutely dominate teams up front. And I don't care who it is that they have in front of them. Mike Solari, his coaching and his impact on this offensive line, along with those two guys, it has completely exceeded my expectations.
That was the one that was number 2 on my list. I will say that there's still a lot of room for improvement on the offensive line.
Absolutely, yes.
51 sacks of Russell Wilson, the most in his career, was a little bit of a sobering number. But I think But it didn't feel like that either, did it? It didn't feel like that, and I think that's because they had the number 1 rushing offense in the NFL.
Right.
That takes dudes on the offensive line. I mean, we saw that last year. We talked about the last couple of years. Pete talked about how they wanted to run the ball.
Right.
But they couldn't. I mean, the part of that was running back health. I mean, Russell Wilson was your leading rusher last season. Right. A big part of that was health. And before the year before that, it was Kristen Michael. So, and he like maybe played 4 games that year. it hasn't been a good past 2 years. But now you have Chris Carson, and I think Sweezy and Fluker on the offensive line in the running game, along with Mike Solari. I think the change in scheme was helpful, and it wasn't just zone blocking every single time.
Right. I think it's made a gigantic difference. And then, one thing about the sack numbers with Russ, he's always going to be a guy who has high sack numbers. Because he's looking for the big play. And he's going to move around. He's going to take chances. And it's his style of play. Not everything Russell Wilson does is perfect all the time. You know what I mean?
And, it's interesting you bring that up, though, Russell. And my number 3 thing that kind of went beyond my expectation was, and it's kind of a combination of Russell Wilson and Brian Schottenheimer. Say what you will about Schottenheimer. He has improved Russell Wilson and the way he operates within the pocket and in the backfield. We've seen him make a step forward this year. Absolutely.
If there is one place that I need to eat all the crow in the world, it's regarding Schotty. I was absolutely, completely, utterly against his hiring. I thought it was an absolute disaster. I hated it at the time.
Yeah.
I couldn't have been more verbal about that. I think I expressed that clearly.
I think it was pretty clear.
And I was dead wrong.
Yeah.
Once they got it dialed in week 3 and they started playing the way that they had envisioned playing, it all changed. And I think you hit it right on the head with your evaluation of Russell Wilson in the pocket and Schotty's effect on him there. It has been an improvement. There's no doubt about it. He's better at sliding in the pocket rather than like he was earlier in the year. His eyes were dropping all the time and he was starting to back out and pirouette out. And now he's shuffling back or just shuffling to the side. The pocket presence has gotten far better. And I think part of that is he actually trusts the offensive line a lot more.
Yeah.
And I'm impressed. And my visor off to Schotty because he's done a hell of a job this year.
I was looking at my charting of Schotty's press conference headwear.
Yeah.
He started the season week 1 with a visor and went away from it throughout the season. It was either a full hat or no hat for most of the season. Right. He had a 7-game hat streak going toward the end of the season, except before the Cardinals game. No hat in the press conference. To start the postseason, the visor's back. The visor's back in the weekly press conference.
I don't like that at all.
No?
We had a good run when he was going full hat.
I'm kind of surprised he went away from the full hat in the press conference.
I don't know. I don't know that he's aware.
He's been in-game visor, almost the entire season. Since the Bears game, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know that he's aware of how much his choice of headgear affects the performance of the team. He might not be self-aware enough as a coach.
No?
I don't know.
I think as a coach, you should be self-aware, especially when you have a 7-game full hat streak going and you go away from it.
I don't know.
You got to go with what works.
Now I'm less confident about this Dallas game.
Oh, because he went visor?
Yeah.
It's press conference visor.
I know. Actually, I'm not less confident about this game. I can't wait to see the Dallas Cowboys. I can't wait to shut up America's team. I can't wait to shut up the national media. I hope to God every Seahawks player has been listening to the press clippings this week. And I hope to God the Cowboys have too, because everybody's blowing sunshine up their butt and just totally talking about how, the plucky Seahawks, they've managed to overachieve. How cute. Now see you later. We're done with you. That's when the Seahawks are at their best.
Yeah, for sure. Although, we've had one of the biggest critics now kind of turn the tables on the Seahawks. So I
had palpitations when I read this.
Because I think it's time to take a trip to Prisco's World.
La 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 la, la 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 la, Prisco's World. La 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 la, la 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 la, Prisco's World. Prisco has his hot tastes and nothing more. That's Prisco's World.
Pete Prisco this last week penning a letter to Russell Wilson, Adam.
I think Satan had to get some winter clothing down in hell because it must have frozen over. That's the only thing that I can think of that happened here. hell is officially frozen over. Because this letter, I mean, did Pete Prisco fall down and have like a head injury? Like, is he okay? Has anybody checked on him? This is out of character.
It is out of character. Here's the letter. Dear Russell Wilson, I am writing this to inform you that my opinion about your game is no longer valid. Or let me try to say it this way. I was wrong about you. See, I can say it. For the early part of your career, you were a good quarterback who was capable of incredible moments. You were fun to watch, but there were also limitations, which some didn't want to see. I had a tendency to point them out more than others, which labeled me a Russell Wilson hater, which wasn't close to the truth.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we're getting into non-apology territory right here, but it goes on. Yeah. Anyway, the reason for this letter is an apology. You're a special player. Maybe the way you do things isn't always conventional, even if you have improved in every facet of playing the position, but it's no longer valid to say you aren't a special player. What you have done the past 2 years without the luxury of a great defense to carry the team has convinced me that you are indeed one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Whoa.
This season, your Seattle Seahawks are going to the playoffs, and you are a big reason why. MVP consideration should be coming your way. This was supposed to be a rebuilding year for the Seahawks, but your outstanding play has your team back in the postseason. It has the Seahawks up to number 10 here in my power rankings, but it also has you rising up lists featuring the best quarterbacks in the league. My list, the one that matters to me, has you moving to the top 5 to 7 in the league. So I hope you accept this apology for my football stubbornness. You truly are a special player, even if it took me a long time to see it.
I mean, knock me over with a feather.
Yeah.
It's nice to see somebody like just actually own up to the idea that, yeah, maybe I was completely, totally wrong on this, but I guess he didn't quite do it.
He kind of did it. You know, I think the fact that talking about him, MVP consideration, talking about doing it without a defense. Although I think you and I could see, and anybody that had been a traditional Russell Wilson supporter could see that the defense, yes, it was good, but there was a reason why the team was good, and it was Russell Wilson on the offense, too.
I don't know if you know this, but the defensive players didn't play offense.
It's true. And I don't think that before those last 2 years, I think Russell Wilson still could have carried the offense.
Absolutely.
Like, he hasn't improved that much just in the last 2 years. I think Pete is using it as cover of the Seahawks not having a defense.
Yeah, I can see that, because I think Russell, you could have put this sort of burden on his shoulders probably year 3. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he was this guy, you know,
year 1 and 2
as a rookie. Yeah. Or even his sophomore season. But about year 3, 4, like, yes, it was all there for him.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So thanks, Pete.
Nice to have you on board.
That was the best Prisco's world ever. Do we have to retire the song now?
I mentioned on Twitter that if he came on the show, that I would retire the Prisco's World segment. But I don't know how we're going to have Prisco's World anymore if he is on the Russell Wilson hype train. If
he's back to the real world?
Yeah. Like, what are we going to knock Prisco on?
I don't know.
I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
But he's capable of bad takes.
Yeah, true. So am I. I mean, yeah.
But are they so catastrophic that they're worth recognizing with a song sung by an Elmo impersonator? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I'm doubtful.
Yeah.
But I'm not willing to retire it just yet.
So just one of the takeaways out of this is, do I need to write Brian Schottenheimer a letter?
Talking about how wrong you were?
Yeah.
No, give it 6 or 7 years.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then if you're still wrong, then you have to admit it.
Okay, there we go. That makes sense.
Although, see, you've already said that you were wrong.
Dead wrong.
1 year in.
100% wrong. All the wrong.
You see, you set this up the wrong way. This is why you're not at the level of Pete Prisco's success. You have to stay steadfast with your bad take for so long.
Yeah.
Until it's so obvious that you have to write an apology letter. You screwed this up, dude.
I guess I'm not good at, telling, things that I believe are complete lies to the public. I'm bad at that.
That's why you're not in the big leagues.
That's a character flaw that I have.
I guess you won't be Skip Bayless or Pete Prisco anytime soon.
I don't know. We've had reviews saying that I was like a wannabe Skip Bayless. So
yeah, well, clearly you have some work to do.
Yeah,
you have to
maybe that's the wannabe.
You have to stick with your wrong takes a lot longer.
Right.
All right, Adam. Well, what do you say we get to the second half of the show?
Sounds like a plan.
Getting into the second half of the show. Friday night, Seahawks fans are going to be getting together at Humperdinck's Brew Pub in Arlington for their Seahawkers Take Over Dallas event. And then the official Seahawks tailgate going to be at Lot 11 on game day on Saturday. So check that out. As we're getting into the second half of the show, Adam, I saw an article from Bob Condotta here recently. Because the questions have been around Paul Allen, what's happened since his passing. And I saw an interesting note that Pete Carroll said Seahawks fans should be fired up about Jody Allen owning the team. He said, we had one really significant meeting, a couple of talks, and she has been really excited and really fired up about doing this. And anybody that's a 12 that cares for the Seahawks would be really fired up about how she is looking at this and how she wants to go about it. She's got a great love and spirit for the area and the club. Must be in the family that she cares so much, but she's ready to go, and I'm excited for her.
That's awesome. I think that it is a very big positive for the Seahawks organization that she's willing to step up and do this. And it does sound like that she has all the traits that we admired in her brother and then some, and will do a fantastic job. I have nothing but trust that she'll get it done.
I'm curious of what the timetable is, if this is a long-term thing or if it's kind of wait and see thing or...
Well, whatever the actual timetable is, obviously Pete has a lot of trust in her.
Well, and he just got extended too, so...
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, he wouldn't sign that extension if he didn't have a lot of trust in the upcoming ownership.
Yeah, how it was going to be handled moving forward. No, good point. Moving on, looking at our Pick'em League, Adam. Congrats to Chelsea Hawk getting the Shaquille Griffin signed photo this last week. So yeah, regular season wrapped up.
Yeah, it went by fast, dude.
I know.
Like, after the regular season, what I want to know is, how do we compare?
Let's look at the leaderboard. Number 1, 12th Hawker Locker. There's Garrett, 175, taking over the top spot by 2 picks.
Late push.
I know. And that leaves Barb's 44, Toonhawk, and Jesper Sacco all tied for second place with 173. Jermaine Olay, Scott, fallen down to 172, tied with M. Goldberg, Big Dixon Energy, Floctimus Prime there, and KC Hawk.
A lot of impressive picks there. I was 19? I was 19 picks short of being in the lead when it was all said and done.
I'm 3 behind you?
Ha, eat it!
I should be at 154 at least.
What? Wait, are you backtracking now? Just because we didn't do a pick show? Now you're like, no, I really didn't mean to pick.
Oh, no, I did it with Anthony. So I have it on record as me picking Baltimore in a couple weeks back. But
all right, well, if you can fix it, fix it.
I can't fix it.
Well, let's keep that in mind.
I went into the system to change it, and it's like, no, you can't change your own picks. And I'm like, oh, yeah,
really?
that makes sense.
I guess it does, but like the administrator should just be able to do everything.
You should be, yeah. If I happen to win, like all my picks are on record, so.
Right.
Anyway, not important.
Well, no,
you got me by 3.
Keep that in mind when we get to the end of the season that you're short a pick that you should have.
I'm going to beat you straight up anyway. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's going to be hard to overcome 3 picks throughout the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I know I'm going to get the Bears pick on you this week.
Wrong.
I'm telling people, you have to pick through the playoffs, and you have to pick the Seahawks.
Yeah.
If you want to risk, not getting a prize, that's on you.
All right, let's, since we're not going to do a pick show because I'm not going to have time. I got to drive to Oregon.
Oh, yeah. I made my picks with Anthony earlier this week, so my picks are on record.
Okay, so I'm going to go. So, Indy, Houston, who'd you have?
I had Indy.
Me too. Obviously, Hawks. Chargers, Baltimore?
I have the Chargers.
I do too. And then I've got Philly.
Okay.
Oh, wow, I'm going all road teams.
Oh, yeah, you are. Yeah, Chicago was the one home team I picked. But really, they're the hotter teams, a lot of these road teams.
I just feel like the Chargers, having seen the Lamar Jackson experience once.
Yeah, they're going to figure it out.
Yeah, they'll have an easier time of it.
We had similar reasoning in that game. And then Indy Houston was kind of a coin flip for me.
What was your final score, like with Chicago, Philly?
56.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 24.
Oh, wow. low scoring game.
It's in Chicago, dude.
I just think that the Bears will get an early turnover, and it'll kind of lead them to blow out the Eagles 30-16.
You think it's going to be a blowout, Bears?
Yeah.
Oh man. I don't see it, bud, but okay.
Okay.
I don't think the Bears have the quarterback to exploit the one weakness of the Eagles, and that's the secondary.
We'll find out, man.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's welcome.
You know what I should do just to screw you for the rest of the picks this year?
Just pick the same as me.
Just pick the exact same picks.
Yeah. You should.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. You do what you want, man.
That just feels dirty pool.
It is dirty pool.
Well, I don't know if any of those were risk picks. I don't know if there are any risk picks when it comes to the playoffs.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think we need to carry risk picks into the playoffs, but
I don't think you can have risk picks. I mean, are any of these games like more than a 20% margin?
No, Houston is 64% over Indy.
Really?
Yeah.
That's stunning to me. That's one of the more obvious games to me.
Seattle is 60% to 40. Chargers are 64% to 36 for Baltimore.
So wait, Seattle's the consensus
favorite? Yeah.
Favorite?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Oh, Philly's a risk pick.
I mean, I guess they don't know about Eli Manning being in Nick Foles' body.
That seems to be a stat that's flying under the radar.
Yeah, underreported story.
You heard it here first. The exclusive on the Seahawkers podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Foles living with the ghost of Eli Manning inside of his body.
Or maybe it was just a Freaky Friday situation and they flipped. Like, the real Nick Foles is inside of old Eli Manning body.
Yeah.
In every category, that's a downgrade.
That at least makes living Eli Manning make a little more sense.
There you go.
But it's probably kind of awkward at holiday parties.
Probably.
Welcome to the flock to Shoko Komiyama in at 12-12.
I was excited to see Shoko join the flock. I enjoyed our interaction when we met in New York. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Shoko and TK, we got to meet them out in New York. I've said to TK now, he's got to be in the Ring of Honor too.
Do we need to come up with like a couples amount? Like, it almost seems unfair to charge like both of them like $12 or more to be in the ring.
Yeah. It's kind of been an under the radar policy, but like Cameron and Stephanie, they're both in. Roe and Jeremy are both in.
Yeah, because like, money from one household, right?
I feel like we should let Barry in with John.
Hey, no, sorry.
You draw the line.
Barry.
You draw the line there.
No, can't have him. He knows why.
He needs to pay the full rate if he's going to be
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So Shoko, TK, you're welcome in. And also shout out to associate producer Dustin Mock. And shout out to Reyes, USMC9, our 800th YouTube subscriber.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's cool. Yeah, Dustin has been strong in the Ring of Honor, man. Like, he's upped his game. Like, he's got some good posts and lots of insightful information and good takes. Like, Dustin's been rocking it.
Always appreciative of Dustin and, doing all the associate producer things that he does.
Mm-hmm. It's a busy thing.
It's true.
It's a lot of responsibility.
It's kind of like a second job.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to John P., another Ring of Honor member. In fact, his iTunes handle is John P. from ROH.
Oh, well, there you go.
In the iTunes review, he says, best option for life. Seahawkers podcast gives great Seahawk insight while also offering insight on how to live a better life. They give you accurate sports opinions, and one of the hosts even describes how not to tighten lug nuts on a Jeep. This is a must listen. Go Hawks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that out of all the things that we talk about, I want to think that a lot of the life advice is really the gems of this show. Like, tighten your lug nuts. It turns out to be important.
It's true. You want your tires to be fastened on your vehicle at all times.
Yeah, the more your tire stays on your car, the better off you are.
Yeah, and there's also how to not unload things from your vehicle. I think we got a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Any life advice?
What to do if somebody runs into your vehicle and does damage? And how to try to follow up with the police on such things?
Yeah.
Like, that was difficulty for you. I remember that. Insurance problems with that?
Yeah, all kinds of life advice. Hey, now that you've had these 2 weeks of travel, worked with Santa Claus these last few weeks,
yeah.
Any big life advice standing out, or are we going to have to expect to hear that later on the show?
Some of the life advice would be, don't travel to the South.
Oh.
Just don't travel to the South.
Don't travel to the South.
because it'll be a cluster every time.
Yeah, so either live there or don't.
Right. Don't travel there.
Don't travel there.
Like if you're there, you can stick there. But if you're not there, don't go there because it's going to be a nightmare.
Gotcha.
That all rhymes somehow, and I don't know why. Like, it just did. It's a problem.
I think you should have some control over that with your work situation.
I wish I did, man. Like, you got to keep getting them checks, you know?
Just charge double.
You just a South fee,
right?
Like just because, like it's going to be a problem.
That way,
I'll get into it with my do better. I don't even know exactly who to aim it at. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a few factors along the way, but I thought I'd tell the truncated story of my last little trip.
All right,
because you seem to enjoy it, so I thought maybe that would work.
Yeah, I did a little bit. Well, I also enjoy calls from Dave Bloomquist, which we have one.
It's been too long.
Yeah,
this is awesome. Okay.
Hey, Brandon. Hey, Adam. Yep, it's that guy who called 5-11 this year. And Adam, you were right. 10-6 in the playoffs. Awesome job. And I want to thank you guys for everything you did this year, from the London trip to the Ring of Honor page on Facebook. It's been a great pleasure. Where I thought it was going to be a really tough year, it turned out to be really fun to follow everybody and communicate. And I think that we have a really good chance in the playoffs. I like playing Dallas, and we'll see if we get Chicago or New Orleans afterwards. But we're a good team this year, and Carroll has just shown what a great coach he is, taking young players just like he did in 2012, 2013, and making them real gamers. So I say Happy New Year to everybody, and go Hawks! Oh, and everybody in the UK, I miss you very much, and I hope that we could get together again sometime. I do. Happy New Year to you, too.
Oh, my God, Bloomy kills me. Honestly, his English accent, like his British accent, spot on.
Nailed it.
Nails it.
Yeah.
I don't care what any of you guys say over there on your little island. Like, that's exactly how you sound.
I just know that it upsets John so much that to hear that it brings me a little bit of joy for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that does make me a little happy on the inside. Well, Bloomy, it's always good to hear from him, and I'm glad that he happened to be wrong for all of our sakes.
I know.
On the 5-11 take.
Yeah. We'll have to do now. It's going to have to be annual tradition that Dave and I get together for the schedule release show. And he'll have to, be his normal, predictive, downer self.
Right.
And we'll have to talk him off the ledge, but it'll be part of our tradition.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. Yeah, but thanks for acknowledging that we were right on that. But also, just to reiterate, I was really wrong about shotting. I don't want this whole show just sit here talking about how we were right.
Yeah, you have to acknowledge that you were a little bit wrong. Oh yeah,
I was very wrong. Yeah, all the wrongs.
All right, what do you say we get in some do better and better at life?
Sounds like a plan, man. I'm calling it Olive Bowl. I'm changing my do better. I think I said enough about South Trip. That works.
That's fine.
It's like trying to have all your friends over after you go on a big trip, and you used to bring out the slide projector and talk all about your trip. Nobody cares. So my do better this week is for Antonio Brown. I'm sure everybody has heard a ton about this situation.
Oh yeah.
And this is an unbelievable level of selfishness that goes to a whole nother level. Like the idea that he was pissed off that he didn't get voted team MVP.
Yeah. Or whatever it is that caused him to leave for 3 straight days of practice.
Right. But according to people inside the locker room, it was because they voted Juju Smith-Schuster the team MVP. And that led to him and Ben having a blowout argument. And then didn't show up. Oh, you poor little baby. And so then he throws a fit all week, right? And forces Tomlin to bench him for your final playoff game.
From the stories that I heard is that he just didn't show up until I think it was the agent that called Tomlin either Saturday night and said, "Oh yeah, he's going to be ready to play Sunday." And Tomlin said, "Nah, that's not how it works.
No,
you actually have to be at practice." And
exactly.
but he did say that I'd like to see Brown on Sunday, and so he showed up for the game, and that's what and he benched him.
If I'm a Pittsburgh Steeler or really any other player in this league, I can't play with Antonio Brown.
No.
I can't trust him.
No. Well, just look at, you got Brown, and then you had the situation with Le'Veon Bell. Do you put any of this on Tomlin?
I don't know. It's tough because people are saying, well, he's a player's coach and he's not a disciplinarian, but I think he's a disciplinarian. I think he holds people to a higher standard for the most part. It's tough to say. I mean, it feels a little like the way things kind of went with Sherman towards the end, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get paid, you're a big time player, and now all of a sudden, like, it's more about you than the team at some point.
Yeah, it's similar in that regard. Sherman never was gone for
he never pulled any of this.
Yeah, but it has gotten to the point, and you hear it from teammates too of the Steelers, is that it is more about Brown and his numbers than it is about team.
Right.
And that's why I point to Doug Baldwin. And in terms of having a top receiver, and now Tyler Lockett developing into the top receiver that he is, I mean, you could not ask for better guys at that position who are unselfish, you hear Doug Baldwin talk about all the time how running the football is a key to having success on offense. What other receivers do you hear that from?
Very few. I mean, we are so fortunate to have Doug Baldwin be the leader of that room through this entire run under Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
His mentality of being team first and just doing what needs to be done so that you win football games has been huge. Can you imagine if you had, a T.O. or Antonio Brown, Ocho Cinco, any of those guys on this team? It wouldn't work.
And one of the guys that Baldwin gives a lot of credit to for the chemistry in the locker room, in the wide receivers room, is Sidney Rice.
Interesting. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, a really classy guy.
Mm-hmm.
And look, and if Antonio Brown's looking to see how it's supposed to be done, there's your example right there in Doug Baldwin. Hey, let's compare rings.
Right.
One of them's got a ring and the other one does not.
And one may go to the Hall of Fame and one may not.
Okay, yeah. AB probably ends up in the Hall of Fame, and I doubt Doug does.
That's
messed up.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I mean, I get it, but that's messed up. So for Antonio Brown, basically quitting on his team in do or die time of the season, that is like the worst possible thing you can do in an NFL locker room. And for that, do better.
There's another Steeler that did that too. Wasn't LeGarrette Blount on the Steelers when he walked off the field?
Oh, yeah. That was like week 4, though, or something like that. It was early, I want to say.
It was early enough in the season where, they cut him and the Patriots picked him up and then he went to the Super Bowl.
But yeah, not during crunch time.
What's up with Steelers players having tantrums?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, it was November. It was mid-November in the 2014 season.
Yeah, it's still not, playoff push time.
But yeah, going into the playoffs, if the Ravens lose that game to the Browns, which they almost did,
yeah,
they're going to be a playoff team.
I know.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad the pick.
So if you're the Steelers, what do you do with Antonio Brown?
It's going to be a huge cap hit, but you have to try and trade him.
Not even try and trade him. Like, you trade him, and if you can't trade him, then you cut him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no possible way I invite him back into my locker room.
And hearing from Steelers fans, that's what they want. They don't even care.
Yep.
You have to do it.
And if you're one of the other 31 teams, do you want Antonio Brown?
Nope.
I hope he joins the San Francisco 49ers.
He has interest there, it sounds like.
I have interest in him being there.
Oakland seems a lot to make a lot of sense for him.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that seems like a match made in heaven.
Wherever they're playing next season.
Do you think Gruden could put up with Antonio Brown? He couldn't put up with Amari Cooper.
That's a good point. Just seems right, though.
It does have a feel to it, yes.
Well, my do better this week, I'm going to go back to the Chiefs game for my do better, Adam. And as much as the stupid Mahomes cam bothered me, they put Patrick Mahomes' face like in a little window, like a picture in a picture at some points during the game. That was really dumb.
Oh, yeah.
But there was something that bothered me even more.
Okay.
And it was something that I was struck by when I heard the introductions and hearing Patrick Mahomes refer to himself as Patrick Mahomes II.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wondered, if he's the second, I mean, he must have a kid, right? Like, because It made me wonder if he has kids, because you don't see that much. You don't see such and such the second. It's either junior, senior. Turns out Patrick Mahomes doesn't have kids.
I don't understand why that would make a difference whether or not he's second. Wouldn't it be more like his dad was named Patrick Mahomes?
Then he would be Patrick Mahomes Jr.
So you're saying you'd need the kids to not be junior, but to be second.
You would need a Patrick Mahomes the third to be Patrick Mahomes the second. Or there's another way, because I checked to see if his dad had passed, because I think when your dad passes away, then you're referred to as the second.
Where are the rules for this? Is this written down somewhere?
Oh yeah, there's lots of rules. It's important, Adam.
Okay.
Or because if your dad passes, then you can be the second. No, his dad's still alive. He's still Patrick Mahomes. But there's another way too. You can be the second if you're named after your grandfather. So if your grandfather is Patrick Mahomes, and then
your dad not Patrick Mahomes, and then you're named Patrick Mahomes, then you can be the second?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Or you have different middle names, because it has to be, they all have to line up. It has to be first, middle, last. They all have to be the same for you to be first, second.
I didn't realize middle was involved here.
Yeah. Middle's involved too.
This is complicated.
It is complicated.
I'm a little stressed out right now.
Well, I'm just saying. So I did all of this work to find out if Patrick Mahomes can in fact be called Patrick Mahomes II, and he can't. There's no reason. There's no reason for it. Patrick Mahomes should be Patrick Mahomes Jr. You can't just say that you're Patrick Mahomes II just because you think it sounds cooler. Your dad was Pat Mahomes. You're Pat Mahomes. You're Mahomes Jr. Do better. So
it's funny, Brandon, the federal government's been shut down for what now? Like, is this going on week 2 here?
Yeah, going on week 2.
Okay, yeah, and in no way has this affected my life in any way until right now.
Yeah,
I could tell, like, you not being at work, you've had way too much extra time on your hands, and I'm starting to get worried.
Yeah, I want to give credit to SchmidtGen.com, because it has pictures of exactly how this all plays out, little cartoons of how the naming conventions work and how you can be junior and senior and second and third.
Well, you'd need those because it's complicated as hell.
Yeah. On to Better at Life. As we go into Better at Life, shout out to Christopher at Agent of Bolas on Twitter. Said, I made the mistake of paying attention to all the BS Skip Bayless is talking all day. Seems like he doesn't know anything about the game of football, just that he loves his Cowboys and hates the Hawks. Everyone is better at life than Skip Bayless.
All right, Brandon, my better at life than Skip Bayless is the New Horizons probe. And I know that doesn't sound good at first when you hear it, like the New Horizons. It sounds kind of dirty.
And probe, but, I think, is the word.
It's the probe part.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's a space probe, which makes it now cool instead of dirty. And this is the same probe that brought to you the information that Pluto has a heart. Like a real live heart on it, on the outside. It's the probe that brought you all those amazing imagery and amazing information back from the planet Pluto. I'm saying it's a planet. Like, it needs to be put back in the planet.
Isn't it back on the planet?
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, it seems like it's an off and on relationship.
Right. And I think New Horizons might have been the thing that, brought Pluto back to the forefront and reinserted it into its rightful status as a planet. Well, it's been busy since then. That was like 3 years ago. You know what it's been doing? Flying like 1 billion miles away from Pluto. It's out in the Kuiper Belt, which is like a whole belt of icy debris that are remnants of the early solar system when it was forming.
Yeah.
These are it's like if you were to go out and dig for dinosaur bones out in the dirt out in eastern Montana to look back into the past. That's what it's like going and visiting these objects. And on New Year's Day, New Horizons flew past this little speck of rock that was discovered by the Hubble telescope back in the day called Ultimate Thule, whatever you want to say. It's one of those two things. But it kind of looks like and they took pictures of it. It is the object that is the furthest away that we've ever photographed.
Wow.
With a spacecraft. And it's, like I said, it's like 1 billion miles past Pluto. Like that's how far this thing is out there.
Like literal billion. Like, you're not just saying billion, like throwing it around as a big number.
No, like it's just like a long ass way away. It's 4.1 billion miles away from Earth.
Wow.
That's how far this thing has flown. And this was not its primary mission. This is something that they were like, oh, success. We did what we were supposed to do. Well, we got extra power and we got extra time, like all that. Like, what else can we do with this thing? Like, this is just bonus science that we're getting, and which is really amazing. I mean, when you think about it, it's information like this is going to give us a much clearer idea of what was around when the solar system was formed. Gives us some information about where we come from and that sort of thing. It's itty bitty, way out there in the distance. It looks like a little red snowman. It's actually two pieces of rock that had coalesced and become one at some point, which is pretty amazing. So to New Horizons for going 4.1 billion miles from Earth, they have a better traveler than me and better at life than Skip Bayless.
I just like how we have rock snowmen in our solar system. That's fun.
Yeah. And we'll be getting a lot more information. These are just the first images that come back. Like it will take literally a year for the transmit all the data back.
Oh, sure.
To Earth.
Yeah, that's a long way.
Well, the download speed isn't exactly,
Yeah, well, and it's 2006 technology when they launched it.
Right. Yeah. And it's 4.1 billion miles from here.
It's kind of far.
It's a long-ass ways.
Yeah, it's just cool knowing that we have something that's from Earth that's all the way out that far away from our own planet. That's fun.
Yeah.
My better at life this week isn't as sciencey. It's for Anderson Cooper. For helping me peg my New Year's resolution, Adam.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I don't normally do New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
But now I know exactly what it is. Have I ever told you that I've never had tequila? Like ever?
Never have had tequila.
I've never had tequila. No.
Huh. Oh, well, I know what my New Year's resolution is.
To get me to drink tequila?
Lost tequila for you.
Well, I look to Anderson Cooper as being proof that a person can be a lot older than me and try things for the first time. Because on New Year's Eve, he was on CNN. And you've been trying to get me to do the drunk podcast. They actually did a shot every hour leading up to New Year's Eve. And Anderson Cooper joined in on this. And you have to watch the video. I'll put a link in the show notes because I didn't believe the sounds. Like Anderson Cooper, you think of him as like the put together anchor of, seriously delivering the news. But here's Anderson Cooper drinking shots on CNN.
Cheers. First one of the night. Yeah. Delicious. I feel better already.
Just to be clear, those noises are coming from Anderson Cooper, and you'll hear him as it goes on.
Anderson made me promise not to complain about the weather because I feel like my lungs are scorched. Good. What was that? Just the beginning. It was tequila.
Yes, it's our hourly toast.
It's not making it any less
Another
fun.
toast.
Cheers.
Cheers if you have at home. If you're driving, but feel free to toast along with us.
Absolutely. You know what? Everybody here seems to be having a great time. He's not a big drinker.
It's like burning your lungs.
Burning your lungs. Feels good to me.
Welcome back, Times Square. It is the top of the hour. The crowd is counting down to the top of the hour. So for us, the top of the hour means
another tequila shot.
I hope
this
you
is
have
number
one
3.
With us at home.
Cheers.
Cheers.
You know what? That felt good. That felt good. For real? Are you kidding?
I don't drink.
It's like it's medicine.
It is.
Yes, take your medicine.
I'd rather have NyQuil.
No, you're not. Okay.
So thanks to Anderson Cooper, I have my New Year's resolution. Another year without drinking tequila. Anderson Cooper, you are better at life than Skip Bayless.
That's hilarious. A couple things that were just really struck me about that. Number one, the first shot, like I truly thought the squeak that came out or the little whatever that was like a dying cat.
That's what I mean. From what you know of Anderson Cooper delivering the news, I wouldn't have expected that he'd be capable of such a noise.
Like, I didn't think that was in his repertoire, but apparently it is. And then the third one was a baby goat in distress. And that was the most alarming. I don't know how it got worse as the night went on for him. I think he needs to work on, he needs to go back to an anatomy class because you don't drink things with your lungs.
That's true.
Should be my throat is on fire. My stomach is on fire. Digestive tract things, not respiratory tract things.
And I think part of it is the reason why the noises changed. Like, that's why you have to see the video is because after he's had the first taste, like the second and third time, you can see on his face like the concern. You're gonna have to do this 2 more times,
right? Like I'm with him that way because I don't like I don't do shots. I don't do shots anymore. That's something that I gave up probably about 5 years ago. Just not into it.
Yeah.
I've been trying. Well, I did do some shots in London,
right?
But that had been the first time in probably 3 years.
Oh, okay.
I just not into it. They don't feel good, man.
Yeah.
I think that's when you start drinking the hard liquor on the regular, I think that's the line between like, I enjoy beer and now I'm an alcoholic.
I think you can drink hard alcohol in moderation too. It's possible.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems like the people that's their go-to, like they don't drink it in moderation. No. Like they drink it in blackout type situations. But I know my New Year's resolution is now, I hadn't come up with it, but is to get you tequila drunk.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen?
Because I have the anti resolution.
Yeah, so they cancel, which means we're on equal footing and like there's a chance. No, I can't do the tequila either. Like that's the crazy juice for me.
I feel like that's why I've never gone there.
Yeah, that's the stuff that gets me like in fighting mood.
Right.
Yeah.
We're on the same page.
Yeah, the last time I drank tequila was probably 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's probably the time to do it. Or even, 20 years ago.
No, it's not my go-to.
Well, our go-to at the first show of every month is to thank our $12 and above supporters at getintheflock.com. So let's say we kick off the introductions.
Getting ready for showtime.
Keith Ketover, a.k.a. Flocktimus Prime, University of Cybertron, Little Flockers, roll out.
DCH from Sparks, Nevada, the University of Montana Grizzlies.
Annalisa Mickelson, a.k.a. Mrs. Doug Baldwin, New York, undergrad, University of North Carolina, Greensboro, graduate school, Brooklyn College.
Eric Trench, rooting for the Seahawks out of Renton, Washington, graduated from Eastern Washington University.
Gary Blum from Chappaqua, New York, and the University of Pennsylvania, your 2016 Pick'em League champion.
Ron Pepper, UNLV Runnin' Rebels, San Francisco, California.
David Bloomquist, Hong Kong Hawk. Masheng Yishu She Ye.
Kevin Stedham, Keene, Texas.
Ella Esparza, Woodway, Texas, Yale University, and Sam Houston State, Eat 'em Up Cats.
Lisa in Seattle.
Sam Sullivan from the wonderful land of Oz, the Forte State University.
Paul from San Diego.
Vincent Parker, Emily Carr, University of Art Design, RN Collective.
Hector Delgadillo from Los Angeles, California.
Samuel Jackson Gelber, the Pasadena City College.
David Van Cleen, Camas, Washington, home of the Papermakers.
Mark in Kirrup, Western Australia, aka my water spins backwards. Farmer, didn't finish high school.
Garrett Strongbanks, Northern Ontario, Georgian College.
Jameson Holman from Murray, Utah, representing Mississippi State University. Hail State and go Hawks.
And a thanks to the rest of the flock, starting with associate producer Dustin Mock, Paul in Minneapolis, David in Camas, John in New York, Pepper in Greenville, South Carolina, Don in the Pacific Northwest, Seth in Tacoma, Christina in Manassas, Jared in Missoula, Craig in Pasco, Washington, Summer in Vancouver, Sven in Berlin, Deutschland, James in Linwood, Hector in Issaquah, Roe in Federal Way, Ross in Eureka, California, Jonathan in Ridgefield, Christian in Bergen, Norway, Shoko in New York, New York, John Paul in Palmer, Alaska, Eric in Seattle, Leland in West Jordan, California, Kari in Rochester, Shannon in Florida, Taylor in Federal Way, Andrew in Marysville, Brian in Berlin, Connecticut, Kathy in Eureka, California, Thomas in the Bronx, Tracy in Kaneohe, Hawaii, Dean somewhere in the Greater Hawkdom, Gary in Kaneohe, Hawaii, Marvin in Riverdale, Utah, Jeff in Waddell, Arizona, Keegan in Colorado Springs, Brian in the Greater Hawkdom, Connie in Gothenburg, Sweden, Young in Anchorage, Michael in Tucson, Arizona, Joshua in London, Max in Honolulu, JC in Billericay, UK, Aaron in Frederick, Maryland. Brandan in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. John C., somewhere in the greater Hockham. Owen in Ashburn, Ireland. Taylor in South Cleellum. Glenn in Sanford, Florida. Becca in Manhattan Beach, California. John in Pierce, Nebraska. Patrick in Arlington. Ryan in Sugar Land, Texas. Lisa in Kelowna, BC. And finally, Scott in Fresno, California. A big thanks to all of our members of the flock at 12 and above. A big thanks to all of our members of the flock. Another year behind us.
Peace out, 2018. Like, it wasn't the worst year. It wasn't the greatest. It was kind of a mediocre year.
It was all right.
It was okay.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for better and not worse. Well, because it could go either way.
It could.
It finished on a low note for me. I wasn't excited about the finish of 2018.
Yeah, especially with the Santa stuff.
Yeah, that was just like cherry on top, dude.
There's one way that the season could really get off to a super start.
Mm-hmm.
And I do mean super.
Exactly. Yeah.
It could happen.
I would take that. So, yeah, here's to 2019.
Being
Looking
super.
forward to you, buddy. Be super.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.